Welcome to EURACTIV's Poland in Focus series. I am Karolina Zbytniewska, Chief Editor at EURACTIV Poland, and I have the pleasure of hosting Poland's still Ombudsman Adam Bodnar. Good morning.
Good morning.
You have served as Polish Ombudsman since 2015. Your term of office was to last 5 years, but the parliament hasn't managed so far to elect your successor. So still after the end of your tenure last September, you should keep your position until the next ombudsman is chosen according to the law. According to the law that was considered unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court on April the 15th. How come is it really unconstitutional?
Of course, there are a lot of doubts concerning this judgment, not only because of the content, but also the composition of the judicial panel in this case. I have submitted a couple of motions to exclude some judges, and I had, in my opinion, pretty good grounds to exclude them, but none of those motions has been accepted. In fact, with respect to one judge, we have found that during last month, there was something like the manipulation of the composition of the panel because one judge was exchanged to the other without giving an explanation to this, and in my opinion, in violation of the law and the Constitutional Code. But as I said, we have all those doubts, but the judgment is there. And the judgment says that I cannot be the ombudsman, I have to go, and I have only 3 months to complete my office. But even during those 3 months, I have already quite significant restrictions concerning my involvement into different cases, especially court cases. We wait for the grounds to the decision, justification to the judgment in order to understand and in order to have some kind of a view, what should we do in this interim period. But ultimately, this judgment leads towards a destruction of the independence of the office of the ombudsman, and that is the result.
Exactly, but Article 2nd of the Ombudsman Act says that the ombudsman may be a Polish citizen distinguished by his legal knowledge, professional experience, and high authority due to her moral qualities and social sensitivity. In the end, it's nothing about being impartial. And on Thursday, the lower house of parliament appointed Law and Justice Member of Parliament Bartłomiej Wróblewski to succeed you. His candidacy has yet to be approved, which probably won't happen at the Senate. But beforehand, Wróblewski led the motion to further limit abortion rights, which resulted in the Constitutional Tribunal announcing that allowing abortion in case of high probability of severe and irreversible fetal impairment or incurable disease threatening its life is unconstitutional. What do you think of this candidacy?
I think that my role is not to assess an individual candidacy, because it always puts the acting ombudsman in a very special position, and it may undermine the independence of the office. But I think that we should take into account what could be the potential result of this judgment. In my opinion, there are like two different scenarios. One scenario is pushing by the ruling party that the Senate, which is controlled by the opposition, should agree on Mr. Wróblewski as the new ombudsman. So they will try to say, in order to protect the institution, you have to vote on him because, he is giving a guarantee that there will be like a selection of the new ombudsman with a proper constitutional procedure. On the other hand, there is a second scenario, and this scenario is more or less provided by the Constitutional Court itself. So the court said that in this interim period, the parliament should consider adoption of a law establishing an institution of interim ombudsman. So somebody who would act as an ombudsman, but would not have the constitutional authority. And if this law is adopted, then it means that the ruling party, via most probably President of the Republic or maybe Speaker of the Parliament, depending who will be indicated as the appointing authority, we have a chance to put into the shoes of the ombudsman somebody who would be once again controlled by the ruling party. So at the end of the day, if either the first or the second scenario is implemented, it means that this office of the ombudsman will not be independent, will not be fully independent, and the power of the Senate will be via adoption of this law on the acting ombudsman circumvented. And if there is somebody appointed as this acting ombudsman, then there will be no even motivation, no incentive on the part of the Law and Justice Party to seek for somebody who will be like a proper, fully fledged constitutional ombudsman.
You blocked the infamous takeover by the partially state-owned petrol company PKN Orlen of Polska press publishing house. And it seems that you have been quite an inconvenience for the government. And it also seems that today the Constitutional Tribunal can decide all laws that are not in line with peace liking as unconstitutional. How does it fit the Polish constitution and democratic system?
So first of all, we should look at this from a broader picture. What happens in Poland is the road towards illiberal democracy into some kind of a hybrid regime. I have even written a paper comparing the situation in Poland to the theory of competitive authoritarianism by Stephen Levitsky and Lucan Way. Because we have a lot of elements of the system, especially control over public media, use of the state resources for political purposes, lack of accountability of politicians for different violations of law, and also targeting of the opposition and activists by the prosecutor's office and by the apparatus of the state media. So we have a lot of different elements. And if you look at this from this perspective, the purchase of Polska Presse by PKN Orlen, oil giant company, is just another step in this road. So that was the reason I was so interested in this transaction, because in general, I think that private media should be in private hands, not in hands of some state giants, state-owned companies, who are looking more or less like chaebols from South Korea from 70s, 80s. I think that is not the way how to do things. I think that private media should be in private hands, not in hands controlled by the state, because it has impact on freedom of speech, and it might have also a crucial impact on electoral process. And I'm quite happy that thanks to my appeal, the regional court in Warsaw decided to suspend the transaction. Right now, we wait for the final judgment of the court, but I think that already the very important signal has been sent that there is something wrong with this transaction, and that maybe not from the business point of view, but from the political point of view and freedom of speech point of view, this transaction should be under careful evaluation.
Last question. Vera Jourova, Vice President of the European Commission, is very much concerned about what's going on in Poland. Our readers express their wariness with these repeated expressions of concern. They want real actions. What real actions do you think are possible in your view?
I think it's a tricky situation for the Commission to act, because there is not like a very exact, clear mandate. But I think we should remember that the Ombudsman is not just a constitutional authority, but I also implement policies and issues concerning equality law. So basically, I'm so-called equality body under the anti-discrimination directive. So without the Ombudsman, Polish citizens will not also have an independent equality body, and that may undermine EU law and implementation of the EU law in Poland. Let's imagine that as the equality body, you have somebody who is, for example, openly homophobic or openly against women's rights. It cannot be accepted from the point of view of the respect for European values. But I think that if we are at this very special moment when this judgment has been already published and announced, and we wait for the further development of events, I think that European Commission should scrutinize and follow the both procedure of the election of the new ombudsman, but also the potential process of adopting this law on acting ombudsman. I know that Commission number of times has issued some statements and they were heavily ignored, but still it does not mean that the Commission should be silent. And to be honest, I'm quite grateful to Vera Jourova that previously, she was quite frank and open in saying publicly about my status. I think that her interview for Dziennik Gazeta Prawna 1 month ago had a crucial impact on delaying the hearing of the Constitutional Court, but it seems that emotions were so high at the level of the ruling party that this judgment simply was issued. There was a political consent for, I can imagine, that it could work this way, that there was a political consent for the Constitutional Court to go into the further operation, into the moment of issuing the judgment in this special case.
Thank you so much for this talk. Our guest today was Poland's Ombudsman Adam Bodnar. Thank you and till the